The 1965 classroom was a very different place than we're used to. Chalkboards were in standard use, and the typewriter was considered the cutting edge of technology. Photocopiers had just recently been invented, and many people who grew up through that era can remember the day that Dad came home with a revolutionary new device called a television. Telephones were not necessarily ubiquitous in poorer neighborhoods, and slide rules were used, not calculators. Transport yourself to the present day, and very suddenly the amount of technology in most students' pockets is more than the entire school had in 1965. Smartboards, laptops, iPads, and smartphones take center stage, while inquiry and self-direction are the buzzwords that everyone wants to hear about. How do you create a journal in 1965 that can still be relevant 49 years later and still maintain its goals and stated aims? What sort of journal can bridge a 50-year educational span? Predicting changes in culture and technology and school reforms is pretty challenging. Educational Administration Quarterly tried to come up with a set of ideals that would stand up to changes in culture. Created by a council of 48 educational research universities, it was designed to examine both theoretical and conceptual issues specific to educational administration. The first stated goal was empirical testing. The editors did not want to merely rely on expert views in the fields or opinions, but rather the desire was to have researchers engage in direct observation of the profession. Numbers and data were mined from observation sites. Those direct observations would be analyzed and discussed with conclusions drawn. The second stated goal was to increase communication between professors and practitioners. The elimination of sterile halls of university with starched white collars, who had no understanding of a classroom. Instead, to bring together teachers and administrators that could all be involved in the process. The final major goal was to critically examine ideas specifically related to educational administration. Educational administration as a field was still just emerging. It was a field ready for new ideas. This journal was the opportunity to put the new ideas under a microscope. In the earliest journals, they adhered closely to their three goals. In the first year, Martin produced an article that was essentially a book review by 4 school principals. Willower in the same year presented a set of hypotheses designed to provoke further study. Also in the same year, Bridges presented a detailed study on elementary principles, complete with methodology, findings, and statistical analysis.
The 2 articles from 1975 reflected what writer Tom Wolfe called the me decade. In these articles, both of the researchers did a kind of ethnographic study, and in one, the researcher went back to becoming a principal for a year and learned that it was his own attitude that helped out the teachers, and in the second, the observer became part of the actual hempy subculture in the high school he was researching. The more current research articles follow a mixed methods approach to research. In terms of the original goal of direct observation of the profession, current research would support that goal, and the articles that we read featured on-site research of teachers and principals. The article we've chosen to feature is called Stress and Illness Behavior Among Urban Public School Teachers. According to the abstract, the purpose of the study was to test a series of hypotheses concerning the relationships among job stress associated with teaching, stress-induced illness behavior, and social support by principals and coworkers. The methodology used was a mixed methods approach with the intent of exploring the relationship between job stress and reported illnesses attributed to on-the-job stress. 5 hypotheses were offered concerning the association of teacher stress and illness and the influence of the principal and coworkers on the illness behaviors. The data collection was from a sample of teachers from one of the nation's largest school districts. Participants were sent a questionnaire, which resulted in usable data for a response rate of nearly 40%. Teachers were given a 4-level forced choice instrument, and the responses were coded from 1, no stress, to 4, high stress. The results were then reported in a percentage table.
The analysis of the questionnaire was broken down into tables. Table 1 shows the percentages of 291 teachers needing none, some, or often medical attention, while they were sometimes or often ill due to stress. Table 2 explains that there is an insignificance in coworker support versus unsupportive coworkers due to possibly different stresses in the workplace. Tables 3 and 4 show that coworker support is lowered when there is no principal support. The authors conclude that the behavior of the principal is key in reducing stress-related illnesses among staff, and that the effective support of coworkers plays no significant role. The researchers also note that even ineffective principals who show support for teachers by valuing their work have a positive effect on reducing stress-induced illnesses. Finally, the report concludes that the principal who treats his or her staff as trusted and valued colleagues reduces burnout and the need for substitute teachers. This article supports the overall goals of the journal. Both direct observation and empirical data were gathered and analyzed. Communication between university researchers and working teachers and administrators was established for the study. Finally, those direct observations were discussed and conclusions were drawn in an attempt to offer insights and possible solutions to real-world problems. In this case, the researchers not only analyzed the link between stress-induced illness in teachers and its link to a supportive or non-supportive principal, but they also offered the advice that it is more efficient to improve the management skills of a few hundred principals than to work on improving the individualistic coping skills of thousands of teachers.
In terms of real-life applications, I see value in this journal from a teacher and former administrator perspective. The papers are well written, scholarly, and focus on current issues such as inclusive education, teacher wellness, and even certain aspects of high school redesign. The journal is especially valuable for its focus on current topics in education, and it provides usable information and research for already busy professionals.